a part of this wonderful community. I have heard a lot about this group and I see a lot of LinkedIn posts once in a while from John about you guys having an event. So I thought maybe I should try to find an opportunity to be able to speak in such a wonderful event. So I am a senior Salesforce developer at Get Generative AI. I am ATEX certified. I have recently discovered this passion of mine on about speaking in community Salesforce community events. And yeah, so today we are going to learn about something which you all have been hearing a lot in the past 2 to 3 years, more specifically, which is vibe coding, Agentforce vibes, Claude Code, Gemini, all these things. So before we get into what Agentforce vibes is, we have to understand what vibe coding means. Now, some of you might know it and some of you might not. So I'll try to simplify it for everyone. So vibe coding basically means if I am feeling okay, I have to generate a landing page. This is the page should have a pink and green theme, and there should be a hero section on the page. This is how I want to do it, and all. That is basically the vibe that I'm getting, and I'm telling that same vibe to an AI assistant, who is then generating the code for me, which is we called as vibe coding tools. Now we have a lot of vibe coding tools. So, for example, there is Gemini, Claude Code, GPT, and all and others as well. But Salesforce also introduced their own vibe coding assistant, which is known as Agentforce Vibes. So, what this vibe coding tool helps us is, instead of trying to generate the code ourselves, we talk to an agent, or we try to chat with the agent by explaining what we are looking to build, and then the agent generates the code for us. And this process is really fast. As soon as we explain our requirement to the agent correctly, it immediately starts thinking and processing whatever information we have given, and based on that, it immediately starts generating the code. So we can go from an idea to an MVP within minutes. So we don't have to spend time thinking about, okay, what should be the starting point, how should the product look, and all. We can have a MVP ready just by explaining our requirement to these AI assistant, and from there we can ask it to make changes, or we can make changes ourselves. So now you are not just a developer anymore. You are on you're not on the driving seat. You are sitting behind the person, somebody else who is driving, and just you are just guiding them on where you want to reach. So your responsibility is to make sure that they are driving the car in the correct directions and taking you to your desired destination. I hope I was able to explain vibe coding correctly and everybody has got an idea. So vibe coding, if I have to just simply put it, vibe coding basically means I tell something to a genie and it gets it done. Now I have to make sure that my I'm putting my wish into the correct words. Then only my expected outcome I might get. So this is what vibe coding is. Now on this, Salesforce built its own vibe coding assistant. Now this Agentforce vibes is the same thing, but specifically created for Salesforce. Now, if I want to build anything on the Salesforce platform, I can build it using Agentforce vibes, which is a IDE extension, which is what we call as VS Code extensions. So we can have it as an extension in VS Code as well as Salesforce IDE built in the browser, which was previously called as Code Builder, but now we call it as Agentforce Vibes IDE. So like when you click on Setup, you will see in the drop down an option to open it the online VS Code or the VS Code built on browser. So What Agent for Vibes helps you in is, previously when we were working, as you all and I also do it. I am a regular Salesforce developer. So most of the days we are getting requirement like, okay, we need to create a batch class, we need to create an LWC, we need to create a controller for the LWC, and then we would think about, okay, what is the purpose of this LWC? Do we have a design reference? What method should I include in the controller that I'm creating? How many records should the batch class process? What should be the logic? But now, what we do with this AI assistant is we ask all the questions still to the stakeholders. Once we get a response, instead of trying to process the response by ourselves, we give the data to this AI assistant, and then the AI assistant does the thinking part on behalf of us, and it shares ideas which then I can agree to or ask it to make changes, and then it can start implementing the changes as well. So I just have to make sure that it is still going in the right direction, and I can save a lot of time, development time, with the help of this Agent Force Vibes. Yeah, we can move ahead. So capabilities, basically, if I have to tell about what this tool is capable of, it first thing which I said, it is specifically built for Salesforce. So I cannot ask it to generate an HTML website for me. It can try to do that, but it won't be able to generate it properly because it doesn't have access to the data outside of Salesforce. We can connect it to MCP servers, not just the Salesforce MCP server, but to other MCP servers as well. So if I have to explain you what an MCP server means. So for example, if I joined this meeting today, you didn't knew anything about me, but then I gave some information to John, which was enough for you to understand the basics about me. And then you can start building more information on top of it. Same thing is with MCP server. So MCP server basically gives you structure of how the Salesforce environment is built and how you can modify things on top of it. So for example, if I have to read something, I need to know what structure Salesforce provides when I'm reading the data. What if I have to modify something, what structure Salesforce provides to allow us modifying the data. So that control is being now shared with MCP servers for using those in AI agents. So every time you want to connect an application to an AI agent, you don't give it the username, password, and all those things. You give it limited access with MCP server enabled, and then it understands everything about the platform. So if I have to give another example, so for example, you are using ChatGPT. Now you go to Zomato, you check that, you see that Zomato also have an MCP server. You add that MCP server, you enable that MCP server onto your ChatGPT, and now you just basically ask it, okay, order me a good biryani from the best restaurant in Kanyakumari, and it knows that there is a search functionality in Zomato, then there is a sorting functionality in Zomato. It will understand everything based on that MCP, and based on that it will place the order for you. Now you can also connect it to your MCP server of an let's say your credit card, and now it will make the payment as well on your behalf. So this is the power that these tool holds. So same with we can say on the stay on the same slide. Sorry. Yeah. So we can we can use this Agentforce Vibes inside VS Code as well as Code Builder, now called as Agentforce Vibes IDE. It converts our natural language prompt into code directly. Currently, there are only a limited languages support, but Salesforce is going to increase the number of languages that these AI agents can understand. It also provides inline code completions, not like previously where there were limited snippets available. So, for example, if I'm typing wire, it would generate the wire on how it would generate every other time. But with this Agentforce Vibes extension, it will try to understand, okay, what methods I have imported. So, what method, which is the method for which I might be trying to write the wire method. Then we have different modes in it. So we have plan mode, we have act mode, and we also currently have a deep thinking mode where it does more reasoning before trying to present an output to you, but we can get into details later on. And it can generate code analysis, so it can review the code that we have generated and also generate documentations on top of it. Yeah, we can move it. So before we jump into seeing what how we use it and how it generate codes, do we have anyone who's having any questions in everything that we have discussed so far?
As of now on chat, we do not have any kind of questions, but yes, people want to have unmute options. So for them, if possible, John Peter, you can give people, those who are interested in asking question, you can give them the presentation mode.
Yes, yes, I can unmute. If you have any question, please raise your hand. I can unmute.
So Priyanka have a question. Yeah, you can unmute Priyanka, and or else meanwhile I'm also
Yeah.
sharing what she has written. Can it write a test class for an Apex class if the Apex class name is provided?
So thank you, Priyanka, for asking this question. A wonderful question again. And yes, we can ask our Agentforce Vibes extension to write test class for a class that we had already written. So what you simply need to do is, if you have, so for example, if you have a GitHub repository setup or any repository setup, and you have opened the folder in your VS Code, while you are asking the question, it will try to pick up the file that you have named. But if not, then you can also tag the file. So if you tag the file, it will always know what file you are talking about. And on top of that, you can ask it to write the test class. Now it is intelligent enough to also look for other classes that you have in the same folder and see if there is any dependency from other class, and it will try to add those things as well. So Anudeep also have a question. Is it freely available for all orgs, or does it count against the Agentforce license and credit tokens? So Anudeep, current as of today, it is available in every org that we have. It is enabled by default. You can disable it from the setup, and no, it doesn't count against our Agentforce license or credit tokens. But there are two ways in which Agentforce vibes work. So there is a pro model and then there is a core model. So with pro model, if you are using the free one, if you have not purchased any external model API, then on the pro model, you get 50 requests per day as free credits. Uh, so you can have those 50 requests. 50 requests basically means an conversation with a specified amount of tokens. And then as soon as those are consumed, it moves to the core model built by Salesforce for Salesforce. It is not efficient as the pro model, but it still does a good job at answering anything related to the platform. So you can use it to any limits. There is no limits on the core model.
So Siddharth also have a question related to the limit, and the question says, "Is there a limit on how much context it can get, or does it get same access as user?"
Uh, so there is a limit to how much context we can share in one conversation. I am not aware of the exact limit. I can check it and share with you later on. But there is a limit, like there is on any other AI assistant. And about the second thing, does it get the same access as the user? Yes and no. So by default, it doesn't get access to everything. It cannot do everything in the org unless you ask it to do, and then you give it appropriate access. I'll show you as well when I'll be showing the demo that we have checkboxes to enable. So for example, if I wanted to create classes, I have to enable the checkbox that allows it to generate code and edit it in the Salesforce environment. Yeah.
Anudeep again have a follow-up question, and it is related to the Apex. Is it limited to only Apex, or can it be generate validations, rules, formula fields?
Anything that a developer can do can also be done using Agentforce vibes. Again, as I said, it is still an AI tool. It can make mistakes. It might not be as efficient as a human Salesforce developer might be, but it can generate everything: validation rule, field, object, schema, page layout, flexi pages, LWC, Apex classes, Apex test classes, Aura components, or anything else as well. If not 100%, it will still give you a starting point that can save you enough time when you are doing development.
Yep, no more questions. We can move forward.
Hey, I have one more to you,
Okay.
Siddharth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Siddharth, can you just give us, some insight on that deployment part? Is that doable with vibe coding? My another question is related to, can it also develop that you know uh, according to that Salesforce trend, everyone is now using that Omni script flexi cards instead of LWCs because it is more of customization. So everyone is want to maintain that code. So how flexible, or how we can generate that Omni scripts with this vibe coding? It is possible, or do we still mean Salesforce is exploring this?
Yeah. Okay. So, firstly, to answer your first question regarding deployment, yes, it can do deployment. So, there are two ways in which Agentforce Vibes can do deployment. One is using the same MCP server through which it is doing everything else. But sometimes I have seen it fails during deployment using MCP servers. So, that time you can ask it to do the deployment using SFCLI, Salesforce CLI. So it will basically execute commands in our terminal to do the deployment, and it is pretty good at that as well. So if I ask it to create an LWC and deploy it, and I can ask it, okay, fix any errors that you get while deployment. So I don't have to check an error every time and then uh, make a fix or ask it to make a fix. It will continue doing the changes unless it the LWC or the Apex class is successfully deployed into the org. And about your second question, which is, can it generate Omni Studio scripts? It can. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think it can as generate. It cannot generate Omni scripts as of today. The reason being, Omni Studio scripts are still a little complex part, and those are generated using XML format. So Agentforce Vibes, again, it struggles with flows. That is what I have seen, and I think that is something similar for Omni Studios or Omni scripts as well. But again, uh, to again bring the point, I do not have full clarity on it. I might have to check it and share much more info about that later.
Got it. So that flows and Omni script. So that this is still we are exploring it, right?
So flow, it can generate flows, but it still has issues. It doesn't
Okay.
generate like smaller flows. It can generate, but if you give it a complex flow, try to ask it to make changes, it sometimes messes it up. So still not
Got it.
100% efficient in that.
Yeah. Thanks, Siddharth.
So Siddharth, we do have two more questions. Priyanka wanted to understand whether it can write LWC pages or not.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it can create LWCs, complex LWCs as well, along with any additional requests like I want the LWC to be available on homepage. These are the parameters that I want to collect from the setup page, from the page setup. Like we create API decorators where we collect information. So those things as well, it can handle. Yeah.
And Ishan want to understand like how we can optimize this particular agent force vibe, because sometimes it gives too much information, which is based off a lot of tokens.
Yeah. So in Agentforce Vibes extension, you have three options, which is rules, workflows, and then we have a latest section called skills. So we use a combination of these three to make sure that the agent behaves as an employee of our team. or as a member from our team. So every organization have a different way of generating code. So in your organization, it might be mandatory to send an email in the finish method of batch class, but in my organization, it might not be. So what we do is we define it in the rules that every time you're generating a batch class, make sure to add a send email method to the finish to send an email to all the stakeholders about the batch being completed or any failures. And at the same place, I can add do not ever add anything in the finish method, leave it always blank. So that is where we can define what it should guardrails basically, what it should and what it shouldn't do, and that is where we can save tokens. Again, it is AI; it hallucinates, so we cannot have 100% control over what how it will respond and all. But we can still try to uh, make the experience as we follow in our organization.
Seems like we do have more couple of questions before
But
proceeding to the vibes in action. So the Priyanka wanted to understand, like, what about debugging? Like, if an error says if I am getting inefficient cross level across access on a page, if I just give it a screenshot of the error and logged into the VSC to the code base.
So, Priyanka, again, so for example, if you tell me, hey, Siddharth, I'm getting insufficient cross level access on a page, will I be able to understand it? No. Same thing is with this AI assistant. Unless we give it more and more context, it won't be able to understand the error. But if you, so for example, if you have an LWC, you give it the controller and then you tell it that at this point, when for example, it could be on a click of a button, it could be on instantly when the page is being loaded. It might give you a response based on that. But again, debugging is something that requires more context. So, for example, if you give it an LWC, if you give it an controller, there might be that you forgot to give it tell it about the permission set that you have created to maintain the permissions for the fields that you are using in the controller. So it can debug issues, it does debug issues, but only if it has the relevant context. So context will be very important in this.
Also,
Hi.
Siddharth wanted to understand, is there any limitations which we should be aware while using the vibes?
Yeah, so we have certain limitations which will we talk about at the end of the session. So I'll get that covered.
There is no question, Siddharth. You can
Yep.
continue.
We can move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. So John, I'm not able to select the option to share my screen. Can you enable it for me?
Meanwhile, on chat, Aryan is someone who has been helping a lot of questions. Thank you so much, Aryan, for giving all those answers to the individuals.
Naman bro, can you please stop your screen once? Actually, now you can present. Siddharth bro, can you please unmute? It's
I
unmute.
hope everybody can see my
Yes, yes,
ID.
yes. Yes, yes, it is visible. You can continue.
Yeah. So currently, I'm using anti-gravity. Again, this is something that you all should be doing as well, exploring more and more AI platforms and tools to understand which one performs better under what circumstances and on what particular type of skill. So currently, I'm exploring this one. And in this, if you see here, I have this Agentforce Vibes extension. If you don't have it, you can basically go to the extension section of VS Code and type Agentforce Vibes. It is part of the Salesforce extension extended pack. Uh, and if you have installed that, it will be automatically installed. This is the icon for it. So now here, if you see, we have a chat section where I can basically ask my questions. I can type @ to add a context. So as I mentioned earlier, you can add a file, a folder, NES object, or any URL or anything that you wanted to analyze before processing our request. Then we have manage MCP servers, which I talked about earlier as well. So you have to enable it. When you install it for the first time, you won't see all these. You will just see the Salesforce DX, which also will be disabled. So you have to enable it. And if you see, I have connected two more, which is Chrome DevTools and GitHub Figma one as well. So with this Chrome DevTools, what I was basically trying to do is that I was giving the Vibes instruction on that it should create an LWC and then it should do the UI testing as well. So it should click screenshot, try to do all the operations on the UI. I'll share a video, a URL with you that you can see in action of how a senior community member from our Salesforce ecosystem did it. So I was trying to basically replicate that behavior. And with Figma MCP server, I was basically trying to give a link to a Figma design and then asking Agentforce Vibes to generate an LWC component using the same design. So we are not going to cover all these things today, but yeah, this is something that you can explore. Then we have this manage Agentforce rules and workflows, as I told you about. If you have specific rules in your organization, so for example, you can ask it every time you are writing an SQL query, make sure that you use the with security enforced clause or with user mode, with system mode, or whatever you follow in your organization. There are two type of rules. One is global rules and one is workspace rule. Global rules means in whatever project I'm working on, these rules will apply. Workspace rule means I'm working for two clients on two different projects, and this rule only applies to this particular folder. Same with workflows. If I want, so for example, I can specify a workflow as every time you create a test class, every time you create an Apex class, make sure you create a test class as well. Every time you create an LWC, make sure you create the controller. So repeated task I can put under workflows. Same, it can be global, it can be workspace based. Then we have skills. Skills means so in skills, we can define a particular title for a skill, which can then be reused in instructions. So for example, I can define Apex skills. So in Apex skills, I can define 10 things that we do this when writing Apex, we do this when writing Apex. And then if I'm making a request, I can mention that, okay, use this skill when you are processing this request. Okay, so let us ask it a very simple thing and let's see how it responds. So what I'm going to do is create an Apex class named account detail controller that queries account record by taking account ID as parameter, and I want to later use this method in an LWC. So you see there are two modes, which is plan mode and act mode. Plan mode, basically it will just propose me a plan on what it is thinking and how it is thinking to implement this particular request. And with act mode, it will immediately start making changes, creating files, trying to deploy those and all of those. And about what it can do and what it cannot, you can see that I have few permissions enabled. So I have said that it can use the MCP server. It can use save commands. Now we can allow a list of save commands. Basically, if it wants to get the username, if it wants to read an Apex slice, I don't have any issues with that. But I have not given it the edit file permission. So every time it will make an edit, it will ask me for approval. You will see that in action as well. So firstly, let us see what it does in plan mode. So I gave it the command. Now it is doing the reasoning. Now you can see as well, because I was trying before joining this session, I have reached the limit for the pro model and it has switched to the core model. And now you can see at 8:34 tomorrow, it will again enable the pro model for me. Okay, now basically it did the planning and here is the result. So based on its analysis, it will create this particular class. It will follow all the Apex best practices with all the annotations. Because I said that I'm going to use it in an LWC, it said that it will make the method as aura enabled. Then it will create a method get account by ID, and everything seems to be on track. So I'll just click on the act mode and you can see it immediately started creating the class. It is done. I just have to approve it. So I'll approve it. Now, I didn't ask it to create the XML file, but it knew that it is not possible to deploy an Apex class without the XML file. Now, I didn't even ask it to create the test class as well, but it is creating. So this is something that I wanted to share with you. If we don't specify what we want, it will try to do a lot of things which we didn't ask it to do. So here it is not a harm, because anyways because I was generating a Apex class, I would have needed a test class. But there will be times when we are, so for example, when we are generating a controller for just for demo purpose, and I don't want the test class to be generated, and I don't want my tokens to be wasted. So that is when we have to use the rules to specify only to do what we are asking, or we can specify it in our command as well. But it is easy to specify it in rules and then reuse it again and again, instead of every time writing that only do what I'm asking you or something like that. Let us review the Apex class that it created. So here is the class. So it created a method that takes account ID as a parameter and then returns some data based on the account. It added this null check as well, which is very important. Otherwise, we would have got an error because we are using the limit clause. And it made the method aura enabled because we said that we are planning to use it in an LWC. Now, if you about the deployment step, deploy the. Now I will ask it to deploy this class as well. So add file, account detail controller, and fix any deployment error that you face. Again, I'm doing it on the act mode because I want it to immediately start fixing the errors. Again, because I have not given it all the permissions, it is asking for me for approval, but I can auto approve it as well. So then it won't ask me every time it wants to access some information from the MCP server. Okay, so it is doing the processing. While it is doing that, let us also review the test class, what it did. So if you see, it created a test class by creating an account and then calling the method from the controller and seeing if the data was returned. And it also did the negative testing with a null ID, with an invalid ID. And you see all the asserts that it used. So it is pretty good at what it does. And yeah, basically it is currently saving a lot of time, and in future it is going to improve a lot. So there might be times when in one day you won't be writing a single line of code and just using it. So you can see it did the deployment correctly. Now if I have to move a step ahead, what I'll do is, can you create an LWC that uses this controller to take account ID in an input field and call the class to show the data on the screen. I want to use this on an app page. So why I'm specifying that I want to use this on app page, so that it modifies the XML to add app page as a target config. Now you can see it has started creating the LWC. It generated the JS file. Let us see. Now it is creating the HTML. Now you'll see it is doing a lot of things which I didn't ask it to do, like following the best practices, adding null safe checks, and all of those things. But because it is trained on the Salesforce platform and it knows what are the practices that we follow in Salesforce, it is making sure to follow those as well while generating the code. Because I asked it to add it on the app page, it added it on the app page as well. Now, because I asked it to deploy the Apex class last time, it asked me if I should deploy this LWC as well. Now I have given it the permission to do that. Now it is trying to add it to the Flexi page as well, but let us reject it. Let us just deploy this LWC. Oh, so it generated the README file as well, because I have defined it in one of the rules that every time you're creating an LWC, define a README file to let me know what changes you did. Let us reject this one as well. So we have deployed our LWC. Sorry. Let me open the org. Let us open this app page that I have and add this component. Account detail viewer. Save it. Head back. I'll go to any account. I will copy the ID. Let us again jump to this app page. Paste the ID, fetch account, and you can see. Now, it didn't generate the picture perfect code that I might use in production. The UI is still not as good as I would have wanted. But again, it gave me a starting point. It gave me a head start for something which I would have taken like an hour or 2 hours to build, maybe based on how fast I code. But now if I have a Figma design ready, I can connect it using the MCP server, and I can ask it to follow that design when generating this particular LWC. But I hope you are able to understand what I'm trying to explain here, that the purpose of this is not to replace a developer, but to help a developer build solution faster on the platform. Any questions in this? You can ask a question if you have. I can immediately show it to you here itself if there is something related to config that you want to know. Let me see. So we have a question from Raghavendra. How about the security compliance, as we all work on real-time business data, and how far trust factor of using Vibes? So again, with Agentforce Vibes, you don't have this problem of trust boundaries and all, because you are still processing the data on the Salesforce platform. When it is processing the data on core pro models, Salesforce have a zero copy policies with all those AI model or AI companies. that they won't be storing the data that we are sharing. But again, when we are building an Apex class, when you're building an LWC, there is no sensitive information that we share because we are asking it to write the code, not read the data from our org. So I think we are good on that part.
Yep, perfect. We do not have any further questions.
Yeah. Okay, then Naman, you can share the slide again. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yes, it is
Yep.
visible.
So about the limitations, somebody asked the questions as well. So there are few limitations which we talked about when I was doing the demo as well. Naman, can you scroll down? So as I said, a request using Pro model are limited to 50 per day per org or 1 million token, whichever is reached fast. Uh, and after that, it switches to the core model on which there is no limit. But again, Pro models are far better in performance compared to the core models. But it is going to improve because Salesforce is also collecting the way we are writing prompts, the way the Vibes is generating the output, and how many times we are liking it and how many times we are rejecting it. Sorry. Then, as I shared earlier as well, AI outputs are not perfect all the times. If we are writing the code, we should ask an AI to review it. And if an AI is creating the code, we should review it. So there should always be a human in loop, whether on the writing side or on the reviewing side. Do not rely on it 100%. Again, as I mentioned earlier as well, it is not here to replace you, but help you do your job faster. But it will replace the developers who are not embracing AI in today's world when there are a lot of developers trying delivering of let's say a 5 pointer story in 1 day itself instead of 5 days, which it used to take. So make sure that you are using all these latest technologies. Yeah, we can move it.
We do have one question from Deep, and he wanted to have a architectural level thinking like what is the behind the scene for MCB servers and what is the role of it?
So I think if we try to deep dive into MCP server, that can be a very different topic. But I'll try to find some resources that can help you learn more about MCP server because it is not a topic just on for the Salesforce platform. It is a generic topic. So, for example, you could search on YouTube and you might find a very good video. I don't have source with me at this moment, and it might take a lot of time if I go into explaining this, which is not covered in our today's agenda. But we'll try to see if we can bring something related to MCP servers in the coming sessions as well. And about the question from Priyanka, the pro tokens are for the user, not for the org, because you might have 100 different users in your org, and then everybody is using Vibes. So it is user based. Yeah. And about the next steps, I have shared few resources. Please make sure you have a look at this. The last video that I have shared is the one that I was talking about, where you will see that the Vibes will be doing the testing as well without you even touching the keyboard once after giving it all the requirements. It will do everything on its own.
We do have one more question, and it says that during the plan phase, how does Agentforce decide which actions to take trigger, and can we customize the decision logic?
So we cannot control the 100% behavior of how it will pick something and which actions it will trigger. But as I mentioned earlier, rules and skills are the best ways for us to control that today. So for example, when it is writing an Apex class, if you wanted to follow a particular procedure, you can define it in the rules. But of how it does the thinking is not something that we can control. It is entirely uh, built on the Salesforce side, where they have the full control over how they have trained the model.
So we have one wonderful questions related to the junior level developers. So the people, those who just started, would it be you suggest that they should start with the vibes, or they should hang on the production level code first?
Again, so if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I also had the thinking like, okay, I should not rely on AI too much, and I should be learning first and then using AI only for small pieces. But it has completely changed today. We have to carry a mix of both, because, so for example, if you and I are competing in one job, and our company only wants to retain one employee, would they retain me if I'm doing a 5 pointer story in one day, or would they retain you that you are doing a 3 pointer story in, let's say, 3 days? And you don't use AI, I do use AI. They know that you might have more knowledge, but who is ultimately generating more revenue for the company? So it is like a mix of both. You need to use AI to deliver work faster, but you also need to make sure that your foundations are strong. Because if AI goes into, as I mentioned, like, you are the co-passenger, AI is driving, but if you don't know the purpose of handbrake, what will you do if the brake fails and the AI is not able to stop the car? So you should know the foundations of how to drive a car, how to build on the Salesforce platform, how do governor limits works, if the agent writes a query in a loop, what implications you might face, and all of those things. And but choosing not to use AI just to strengthen our core foundations is not the solution, I would say. Yeah.
Yep, perfect. So guys,